Доброе утро.
Good morning. We could hardly get here. And definitely the person who watches over Habib failed to come. His name was Zubairu, as I was promised. But I will see when they come, when they both come. I want to tell you about this session. First, I'm very grateful to Svetlana Makovetskaya, who I understand flew especially to attend this session. And when I called her 2 months ago, I don't know if she heard it or not, but I called with one vested interest, so that to hear her confident voice and to personally, and everyone who does this school every day would hear this confident voice of the civil society, civil life, and a citizen that I heard at the forum when I was preparing this forum of civic initiatives, and many, especially young people, I didn't know the attendees. I knew only 40%, all of them, because they were alumni, and all the people under 40, and we were there together, and I was impressed so much by the speech of Svetlana Makovetskaya, because I think that people like me, living their everyday life, and sometimes you lose confidence if you are right or not, because sometimes when the audit commissions come, they would check and double check, and then ask a very fundamental question. Fundamental for me. After everything they check, they ask me, and they give you money for that? And sometimes, I'm at a loss what to say. It means probably it's not they want to check and close. They don't understand why. And you start doubting why all this. But when you personally listen to Svetlana, you think, where else can I find more money to do something else? And I want this confidence to be felt by you. And I thank you for coming for the lecture, for the Q&A. Shall we start? Thank you. Thank you, Lena. Good morning, dear friends and colleagues. And I know some of the people who are sitting here at this table through their other activities and status, and I met, and it's an honor to talk to you today. Thank you very much for the opportunity to stop and think and try to explain how I see the real formula of civic success. That's what I'm going to talk about. And probably I have not thought everything to perfection, but I'm still in the process. I'm still in the process of understanding that it is very important. And just like at that forum, and now I say, somehow people responded so quickly and say, yes, I understand. We are going to spend the winter, but it doesn't mean we're going to freeze. And this military preparation of the winter and expectation of the next spring. But then it is important to understand what's important for me, what's the foundation, so that every day, every morning, I wake up with the feeling that we have a decent country. There are so many wonderful people, and we can get good results here and now, and you can go to sleep, but though you cannot really go to sleep every day. So what is changing? I understand what you call Bolshevism and Sovietism. No, it's not ironclad. It's not made in clad in stone that you can just take and overturn once and as a whole. And it turned out that we have so many unexpected uncertainties, and we were expecting some form of self-organization to emerge, and people should unite and address the issues. They do, but it takes very weird forms and communities, and these are different communities, and it's all part of us. Civil society. We made a research once, probably you're familiar with the Russian political activism, and you can go to our website and brought some books. For those who love reading on paper, I brought some. And it turned out very weird and meandering forms. And then something happened to the public sphere, so more and more new ideas penetrate the walls of the public activities, new authors. But along with that, we see a tilt, a disproportion. I'm not even talking about the reasons. I'm going to talk about my understanding, what's important. General feeling of a tilt in trust when the people tend to be indifferent turn to hate, and those who hate turn to radical revanchism. So on both sides, and huge number of claims that so-called brother activists pose to each other, absolutely impose. And I have a feeling that people do not understand that these are symmetrical to both sides. These are claims that looks like, as if you can consider it normal when you can treat someone as a mob without any feeling of history or guilt that exists in the country, just wobbling like in an empty cistern. I understand that's not enough for me to justify every time the things I'm doing. I see that the huge deficit of powerful text and civil history in Russia now feels the lack of church and religious text. What that describe? What is the civic culture? What's the idea of civil activity in a country like Russia? Either we're written for the wrong time or the wrong audience. It means that we are living in the age of some intellectual freebie system whereby we only answer the questions of the effective agenda, present agenda, and irrelevant questions. It means that the texts are not very, and everyone is in opposition, so we have no trust. So the question is what to do. So I keep attending meetings like that where people discuss what they can do, and NGOs and other communities. And then I understand that people have this kind of mirroring picture and trying to return the status quo. International cooperation, autonomous legislative compliance field, be responsible just within your own blog. And I'm not happy, I'm not satisfied with the feeling that you can use the status quo strategy. And then I started thinking, what are the strategies that would be possible to apply and that would be acceptable to me and that could justify the style of my activity? I decided, as a rule, they should be radical. It's a kind of a fork, of the road. Either we have to go to civil fundamentalism or civil modernism or pragmatism, as I called it in this case. What is this civic fundamental? It's not religious, no, in the civil wrapping, but fundamentalism as a style of activity. fundamentalism is a black and white picture of the world, going back to basics, which is a hyper value. So this is coming back to, for instance, for divine retribution. Well, not divine, but legal distribution. So punish those who violate the people's right. This is stopping victimization and going to the right. Because it is wrong to make a fuss when you are one of the resources and your fate is being decided. So I will not talk about fundamentalism, though I have many ideas, but fundamentalism is a basic style for those who protect the public interest and fed up with reports, monitorings, and claims and statements. This is this style of streets, meetings, and consolidation around the values that are the last defense line for the people who believe it important. What is modernism? What is... So we are now talking about something else, going away from reality by immersing yourself into this reality. So an attempt to produce results all the time. So seeking inspiration in everyday routine. So increasing competence through variety. Here and now, there will always be sites where you can be successful, and this successfulness will be the reason. And this successfulness will be your contribution that you provide in order to switch this feeble life to your side. And in my view, the upgrade of the civil paradigm is the main resource. What is civil pragmatism? What is civil pragmatism? Who are civic pragmatists? People who are very sensitive to the poor results. This is a feeling that you need to really focus on the present and shoo away your fears. So keep yourself like a resource, but not cannon meat, not for the power caterpillars that only leave asphalted paved road after themselves, or responsible or irresponsible pussy riot, because I consider it as a trend. And working resource, I'm ready to think my thoughts. I'm ready to do my things. But I will disagree, just like the civic fundamentalism, to the practices without integrity, dishonest practices that really reduce the temperature of the civic level. So this is the omnipresent feeling of guilt. Yes, I know I am to blame, including and in what's happening with huge number of other people and practices and in the power. So I'm not going to be wallowing in this guilt. So pragmatism is squeamishness. So let's go and work. Pragmatism is a switch from civic templates to brands, to technologies, so that you could, again, copy this civic activity. People who were polling in the Russian cities once and again were saying, I did this for the reason. Have you tried to explain? Even the most sustainable, active, and repeatable practices are with the inner reflection. So I did it myself, and then I'm going to see why it happened, and then I'll explain to others. Moreover, a new type of civic pragmatists appeared, and I believe you met them already in your regions, just like I did. There are some initiatives, some steering groups. For instance, a steering group would meet and decide on the issue of lack of a teacher of sports at school. And then they would turn to the authorities and say, don't we have men? Can't we actually conduct the sports lesson lesson until they find a proper teacher. So, and then they decide to go away, and then usually a lady would stand up with some kind of experience in the past who would stand up and say, let's exchange our phones or make a chart or whatever and schedule. And these people are the working headquarters. She is not even a civic activist. She is a person who understands if there is something to do, it has to be done properly. And she would launch the process in different forms. Not just like a brain, but this kind of tribal pragmatism that I saw differently. So the question is, what is civic pragmatism? Civic is a value of practical activity with results that can be estimated. This is a value of practical experience, know-how. This is independent thinking and vaccinations from too much enthusiasm, excessive enthusiasm, excessive emotions. This is keeping your autonomous space. And this is responsible civic autonomousness. This is growing in the manifestation of social and economic advantages and benefits of civic activities. This is what I understand by the civic activism. So what does it mean specifically? I would like to give you some examples so that we could discuss further if it is possible to go there. Let us see what is the civic pragmatic attitude to authorities, to the power agencies. And then let me talk now about the administrative powers and real existing authorities. So it's just a pure calculation without any sympathy or hatred. Just like Elena and my organization, last year I felt full-scale special interest of enforcement agencies to my activity, because some part of our budgets, we earn money through research, and there is some part of the budget that comes from foreign sources. And when I realized that they're going to scrutinize me, they kind of dropped me from the third floor to the pavement, because I was an AA grade student. I always has been. And we have 8 the most transparent organizations of Russia. I don't know, we publish reports everywhere we can. We have awards from Ministry of Justice for the best representation of the financial sources. And I have always been included in some government commission because we're experts in the involvement of citizens in the reforms of the authority. And suddenly I discover that I am a victim. And I try to understand it's not proper to be a victim, and it's improper to hate the people who came to scrutinize you, because hatred burns this desire to do something right now and right here. And in this way, the civic positivism, yes, I understand this. There are restrictions, constraints. This is an art to cooperate but not be friends, oppose but not be enemies, be partners but keep a distance of freedom. And I wanted to talk to you about the new public management as an example of a field that is good for the people who are ready for civic pragmatism. This administrative reform and budget reforms. So for some reason, including the reason that all the nations understand that you cannot just use technology to address issues or use people. An official, a good guy, a good professional, an expert is not sufficient. So there are still failures, and this is new idea of public management, including the feedback, compulsory feedback from like municipal state services and you must have heard. So repeatedly, since 2006, they keep this invitation to co-manage, co-govern. And we have, for instance, uploaded the text of administrative regulation. Would you like to change something? You know, our population is quite experienced. Civic activists have special prism. No matter what we write, they say, you will not change. Surprising, but we have changed 219 instructions. Probably we were the only one to do so. What does it mean? So it's possible to change. We could change. So once and again, over and over again, repeatedly, no matter if you cancel this registration institute, like the serfdom, why we have those original authority offices, and we needed to make a research and prove and translate and go to those government commission and prove that it's wrong. And now the regulation has the following rule. So you can live where you live, where you registered, or where you lost the passport. But people don't use it. And I believe this is our treasure trove. This is an opportunity right here and right now, partially cancel the Institute of Permanent Registration. I would like to tell you what's preventing us from getting involved. Very specialized language. Civil practitioner, a person who is responsible, a pragmatist, will increase the competences to be successful. And we had to master this language. And we do. And at the very necessary moment, we fit into the system. But we are still angry. We still use the human rights as a construct that allows you to harmonize this environment and make it match the people. 2 years ago, a very important for Russia episode happened, like the law 210, that is very little known to most of you, about state and municipal services. So this is about the interaction of citizens and authorities, whereby the authority would kind of cut the services into little like of noodles, and some services would be provided according to rules, and the rules would be improved, not because the people want, but they get improved because they get more transparent and improve the procedure. In July 2011, approximately 73 rules have been cancelled. Not rules, but the necessary papers that people have to submit, because the agencies actually exchange between each other. Russia didn't notice. This is one of the things that makes me so angry and speak up at any proper site. So we are not an avalanche. We are not trying to. We are trying to be specific. We are a tool. It's not that just the negative stimulus that we can use, but positive as well. We can use for further advancement. We understand that is not true that there is some black square of this authority and some multicolored monolith of civic society that is opposing. It's wrong. So local convergence of interests may occur when public interest and interest of the authorities coincide, and then enforcement has the technology of the Helsinki group. You decide that you set the rule, and just for fun, and we decide that we shall check you according under those rules. That the check, that the audit, and forcing you to work under those humanitarian rule is a tool. So this is a raid to the enemy, and with taking hostages and things like that. So for me, as a pragmatist, it's so important to use and learn again a new formal and existing tool of participation of citizens in decisions and public governance. I believe it's very important.
Sometimes it will be of critically important if we have partners in those moments when the partners come to side with each other by the amount of their being carnivorous. So indeed, it is about It is about the ability to differentiate between the good practice and indeed the practice of nurturing the base instincts. It is about differentiating between what I call European practice and what I call vulgar practice. Lately, we have conducted several competitions, one of which was about the elucidation of 6 most difficult laws in the sphere of healthcare. And we had this competition. You know who won in this competition in trying to elucidate? The first place was taken by an elementary school teacher. It turned out that the elementary and generally school teachers need to be perceived as an expert resource in the local communities, and this is true. So when we can indeed interpret, when we can lead, when the elementary school teachers come to talk to us as partners, then indeed we can say that we have met the challenges of in front of the civil society. Yet another award winner was a librarian in a village library. What did we do? We indeed had a very open style competition. We conducted, together with the local government, we tried to elucidate the environment and to combine those resources so that we and the government may have together. Together, we are creating the public good. Indeed, the quarrels is not good. It is bad. But quarrels on an everyday matter is counterproductive. So indeed, preservation of this space of common sense is also about the preparedness of the society. And the attempts to keep within the domain of the possible this strange construct. So we're talking about very difficult, an arduous task, and you should not expect it to be loved for what you're doing. But there is a degree of pragmatism and a degree of pragmatic approach in that. Every pragmatic person knows that if there's something beyond. I think that we shall be praised for what we have done in life, even though I'm not a particularly religious person. Another side of our activities is an attempt to try and silence the beastly instinct of modernization from above. The government says that we know what is better, we know what is better. The human rights activists say we know what is better, we are economists, yet so every party vies to become the highest instance of truth. But I think what is most important is to trust into the citizens of this country and to allow people to become a part of this process of enlightenment, to perceive the value of enlightenment. Enlightenment is possible in not just in abstract terms, but in very specific terms. There is this laboratory of the amateurs of education system reform. This is one of the centers that we have organized. We know that the education system reform has been taking place since probably 1989. And very many people, very merited and dignified people have indeed broken their lances about this reform. So we have been doing this, and we have been trying and showing that a pragmatical person is trying to champion the interests of a common citizen. A pragmatic person is trying to explain. He or she are trying to show what choices does the particular citizen have in front of him. And only when such a citizen perceives this choice, he or she can make it. I have an impression that all civil activists and active people, by and large, have their mission, such as a rendering of a more civilized nature to the Russian rural areas. Is this about, I'm asked, is this about the social lifts? No, I'm talking about something very different. I'm talking about the country as a I'm talking about a country where you can have the growth points as the little lights on a Christmas tree, when you can have these little surges of interest and points of growth in different parts of this country. This imperial colonial dichotomy between the capital and province is a great hurdle in the development of Russia. It seems that Moscow is in many ways oversaturated by resource. Moscow is always creating hyper density. And at the same time, the province is very important, and the quality of life in provinces is specifically important in terms of the human potential. And how are we trying to solve it? What do the clubs do? They're trying to create the kind of life that whereby they say that the capital is where we are, and they're making these points of growth throughout the country. I come from Perm, so when the problems are of this civilized development are being solved from the government, then it either degenerates into the Fata Morgana or the castles of sand, or else people go for concert trips that go throughout the villages and the rural areas, or else finally it's a kind of an offshore zone with low taxation and the fiscal conditions which would be favoring different types of business. But every offshore, it only starts working in about 15 to 20 years. Mr. Gelman, in this sense, the gallerist, has shown a very interesting concept, the social producing. we now have a producing center for the civic initiatives in Perm. So it turns out that the problem is that we have new growth points in the provincial centers in Russia. We're creating these together, and we have a certain strategy, because this deprovincialization of Russia has to become a state policy. It is very important to try and distribute these growth points across Russia. I'm not talking about social lifts. Let me emphasize this yet again. And it is about creating a more comfortable life for those who live in the Russian provinces. Frankly, I am a little tense that everybody, starting from the president throughout to the governor, first pay their dues to the elderly and the veterans. And I think that it would be more pragmatic to consider a possibility, whereas we should understand what exactly are we doing. Because the situation when the government simply distributes the resources and is nothing but a distribution center of pension benefits and so forth, is far to be desired. And I think that children, let us think about that, that the children should be earning enough to be able to save for their own elderly old age and to support their elderly and to care for their elderly. So the pragmatic approach is about this solidarity, about this common responsibility. I think that an emphasis on the pensioners introduces the kind of pension age policies. So I think that the politicians should be paying just as much attention to the adults, to the young adults, to those who create wealth, to those who are to lay the foundation for the future prosperity of Russia. I think that in this sense, the government should become more attentive to the problems of the younger generations. I regard myself as a European person, and I may not be sharing more Oriental or Southern views of the family. But with that said, I understand the importance of communities, professional communities, and I think that we should have a different formats available. What is to be done about the youth policies? What is a pragmatic approach with respect to the young people, the younger generations of Russians? We were considering within the Council for Human Rights and many prominent public figures were critical of the quality of these initiatives. But what is about this pragmatic approach? First of all, the young must not be stimulated to create or to indulge into what we call civil entertainment. Because civil entertainment, such as performances or exhibitions, public reading of verse and poetry, this is all fine and grand, but an attempt to create yet another internet portal or this reformatting of communication models, all these entertainment type models among the civic initiatives may not be of particular relevance and immediacy. First of all, we are leaving. I'm 51, and yes, indeed, I'm 51, and I have 18 people working for my organization. I am the eldest, and my next colleague is 41, and the rest are between 25 and 35. And one day I asked myself, what are we to expect? What are they to expect? And I thought that I can love them in such a way that we can talk in such a way that they have their own experience. One day we were talking to the experts from the Center of Economic Analysis, and we were saying to ourselves, this is not about education, this is not about life views, but when we became professionals, when we become professionals, when we can find this language of civic liberties, then the wind is indeed blowing into our sails. And nowadays, we are in a very different situation. So all we can do and find these favorable winds to create this context of vibrancy and immediacy. With that said, one has to understand that a pragmatic person helps the young to advance their careers, making it possible to multiply the brands of such organizations. Because for a state to be an open access state, the organizations must survive their founders. Well, let us take some of the well-known initiatives. Let us take the youth parliament. There are youth parliaments everywhere, and I never quite understood how do they function, and I always try to keep myself somewhat at a remove from the youth parliaments, because that reminded me of more of a children's playground. But some of my colleagues have proposed very interesting alternatives, and it turns out that there was this sudden rainbow of meaning. We have a small village with about 1,800 inhabitants. First, we were thinking of what should a youth parliament do. And of course, the first question was about the youth entertainment, such as dance clubs, and indeed, eventually, they arrived at considering the questions of municipal budget. So these young people have helped the municipal authorities to institute a system of street lighting. What I would like to say that this is indeed a true participation in municipal politics. This is what I would like to call pragmatic approach, an attempt to use what is available to create and to produce the results which would be important to produce, and to make as many people as it is possible as carriers of such results of civic initiatives. Now, yet another point, the national question. What is pragmatic approach to the interethnic or international relations, interethnic relations within a country? A pragmatic person would not be satisfied with either nationalism or cosmopolitanism, or else not even the political correctness. A pragmatic person believes that nationalism is a dangerous thing for a pragmatic person, because it is the day before yesterday's answer to yesterday's question. So what does a pragmatic person do? He or she tries to find the kinds and formats of experience, and if you are for the breakthrough approaches, if you are trying to understand what convergence can make, this is about a whole plethora of interethnic relations where people may find common ground, including interethnic marriages, merging of lifestyles, and this is what a pragmatic approach is about. Let us take a pragmatic approach within the civil activities. We have a project which is called which is devoted to the literacy of migrants, of educating or teaching the basics of language to the migrants coming into Russia, and thus easing down the communication between such migrants and the bodies of government. And if you can see that the people who come to this country are not in a position to communicate freely with the bodies of government, it would be important to have some materials available to these migrants in accessible language. This is just one dimension, but this is, I think, a very clear-cut and proper practice, because increasing the literacy, the space where we're trying to implement such projects is about these pragmatic approaches. I would also like to impart to you my thoughts about a city as a civil project. A city, an urban environment, is a very special place, a special environment. It is what I would call a rocket launcher of new meanings. And the civil liberties are growing within the city bounds. Probably today, the urban environment is the only way to solve some of the problems. On the one hand, we're not seeing the new type of city dwellers, city managers. The people who can be true champions of civil initiatives and the work the people who exchange addresses, the people who come together in their interest-based clubs. Very different associations, a plethora of associations indeed, started from vegetarians to cat owners. A modern city must be an environment conducive to success. That is why I'm trying to talk about the city as an environment for creative work. Why is a city also so important as a civil project? Because it allows us to propose some unique approaches. The archaic approach is one. The archaic, the modern, or the avant-garde, a revolutionary modification, and that's a city from scratch, which is yet another attempt of the public art to try and create new cities or new urban space, new urban environment through a provocation, through some revolutionary approaches. And finally, the modernity. So in the city, I think that the modern technologies are best to be used. The new citizens, do you know what is living library? It is when people, city dwellers, come together and read to each other. No, not read to each other. No, people act as books, and those who come to these living libraries are the readers. So a person who has chosen himself to be a book has to be talking to others who are the readers. This allows to have a very fresh look at some of the social problems, and such civil practices in cities allow us to overcome cynicism and to become more humane in our treatment of the civil problems and the social ills. I remember about 37 practices of civil initiatives in the cities. I would like to propose that such a civil potential is of paramount importance in the cities, because when we work with municipal authorities and the city authorities, they say, well, that's all fine and nice, but usually people are not interested in anything beyond their yards, their yards and the courts of their buildings, of their houses. But I think that this is not true, because the people who have a child today would start thinking about that child for the next 18 years until that child reaches the age of majority. So I think that in this sense we have to have the very literate approach, because people have to understand how different and why are people different. Why is it that in some cases one has to apply, say, to the supreme power, and in some cases the local problems can be solved locally? What is the city budget? What is civil participation in a city? In what sense is a city, an urban community, different from the rural communities? a whole set, a plethora of meanings, initiatives make people intelligent city dwellers. This literacy and the missing literacy, indeed, this might be about environmental policies and sustained development, but I have never seen or heard how the city would be explained within the framework of a particular class at school. And I think that the self-government in its institutionalized form is an important part of city life, because we have to understand that cities are our place of peace, and we have to be giving a lot of energy and making every effort to preclude conflicts on the local level in the cities and the urban environments.
Я думаю, что многие поняли, неважно, как мы относимся к...
And it's not important how we treat the tragedy of Maidan, but we understand that we need to have a public resource, so we create it ourselves. So self-governance helps. So we need this capacity, this resource that can make us hope that even a certain portion of the conflict can be addressed in different ways. And so we need responsibility, and so then we need support for municipalities, and we need a new image, reputation of the utilities and the public life, and the city success. So this is quite difficult just to put it all together, because we need to have this balance. We need to have this gateway, and so all these city practices, urban practices, so they're not always hinged on the decision-making processes in the city. That's why we need to have sites, authorities, because they create this balance. They create this water conduit, so that helps them to interpret their public behavior in the proper fashion. And so how to organize it, just to make sure that the city becomes our common place where we can all nicely live. And certainly if we have no elections of mayor elections, then the city will disintegrate into a number of fragments. And it will be an unmanageable, big amalgamation that will be very difficult to manage. So we need a lot of things. But when we work in the city, we need to remember that if we start to use certain methods, so that might be destructive for the city. That's why we need to have the public involvement, popular involvement, and we need to listen to the people very carefully. And we cannot refer the decisions concerning the city to only authorities, because they cannot cover it all and see all the problems in their entirety. Mm-hmm. And then there is another debating point that I would like to offer you. So we don't want to wait. We can't afford to wait. Because yes, I know that pragmatically time is elapsing, time is going. And so we need to move in rapidly. So neither our city nor our family. So we have a great country, and so we have a wonderful population that demonstrates wonderful ways of survival and urban activities and creative activities. So we do have institutions which can generate other institutions, and we can always find ways, sites where people can come to terms with each other, just sit at the table and develop certain approaches. So we want resurrections. So we want new capacities, capabilities. So we don't want to live in a country with today's horizons, which is they're either very murky or very close. So we want to live in a dignified country, in a worthy country. and we need to make sure that everyone is involved. Thank you. And so a couple of words, so then Andrei will take over. I think it concerns me, and I am very much moved, and I am very much involved, and so I cannot speak with the same forceful fashion, and I cannot speak so. But what Svetlana did, so this vibrant, wonderful intervention, assertive intervention, and so it's giving back me my confidence and assurance that there are certain things that I cannot do because besides expectations. So there is a lot of pent-up energy. So there are many things that are inside us that can help us address many issues. And so I would like this on behalf of our council, of our alumni. So I would like to ask her to come and speak at every new class. Because it's very important for our points of view and the way we look at reality. So do I? Good morning, colleagues. Yesterday, so we didn't have enough optimism, and so suffering from a lack of optimism, a shortage of optimism. But now, just we got off on the right foot this morning, and so there is a lot of optimism. That's true. Thank you very much, because this optimistic, energetic, vibrant intervention is wonderful. But what do we do with it? Because you just think about it. It's one way to think, and a spiritual practice. But we need just to put it into practice. And so more specifically, what did you mean by? I didn't get what. I was talking about bad rules and German rules. And so I think that we need to be very careful, exercise extreme caution when the authorities of the state, so without thinking, so give the right to violence to other groups. I don't know this Occupy Pedophilia or Stop Ham or whatever, this anti-tobacco or Cossack, družinas, I don't know. This is very bad. So when the authorities give away this right to violence to others, so when you become partners, but sometimes you are a partner with something that you're not happy with. So for that, the rules on which, so I never paid any bribes, anyone. So I will never pay. So I always just get out of the situation. I say no. So I'm not going just to give a bribe to anyone. So I've never been venal. So that's the point. Is that so the ability, an attempt to acquire your reputation, to piggyback on your reputation without you knowing about that. And that's another point. So there are challenges. One thing is when you do not agree, and then the authorities they know how to handle those who do not agree with them, and they do not, and they cannot actually retain this resource of the independence of those who do not coincide, whose opinions do not coincide with their opinions. So because this is bad, because there's a good resource, because even if they do not agree still, so they can be used, and then. So these base rules, so collusion, so then so when you take only your friends and then transfer of violence to others. So these are the base practices that I would like to get rid of. Thank you for your presentation, Chelyabinska Oblast. I think that you will agree with us that the civil society should be placed on a professional foundation, developed institutions, civic society, communities, etc. But actually, I was a little bit apprehensive because when you said so about the classic agenda, so we're not talking about ecology, not about the human rights. So don't you think that you are creating a technology? So then the institute that will just hang in midair and will lack teeth, because so technology is good, but if it's not, it doesn't have anything to do with human rights or just other basic values, then it won't work. And so maybe you need to call it differently. Because if you, my husband is Igor Averkiev, maybe you know him. So he's quite famous human rights activist, and so they are reading his articles now. This Putin is our good Hitler. So that was his article. And so no, we don't work outside values. So because the civil activity is different from business activity because it's centered around values. And so on, human rights values, so should be certainly in demand because by themselves those values so need to be packaged into a certain format, so where it's easier to promote them, and so that is why I do not take it outside the context. No, just I want to say that everyone just understanding these values, so they always need to compare the values, so with the way they are practically implemented. And how they are realized, how they are made to manifest themselves. I'm confident that so they're properly packaged, so that's to increase. And so I keep talking to the governors. So we have no civil society, the governors say. And so what? So you think that the civil society is elderly British women? They have lots of non-NGOs, and so they keep telling them what they need, but just speak in different language. So they don't even realize that there are many NGOs around them, but they turn to them a deaf ear. And so that is why, besides the sociological studies, so we need just to understand, so there's right for privacy, honor, dignity, and right to be informed, so to be properly informed. And so that's all. It's there, but the governors do not understand that. So thank you for the wonderful presentation. And that's a very metaphoric presentation as well. So very nice too. Two questions. You were talking about 37 public practices published in your book. So could you give me where can I get this book? And then you were saying that the authorities love to take care of the elderly, but we need to take care of the children and take care of them. So I'm an ombudsman, and that is why so elderly people come to me. So and the children don't want to take care of them, and so they're not looking after them. And so how to motivate the children to take care of their parents, or the elderly parents, and because many come to me with that question. So I have positions. I do not have answers. So concerning 37, it's only urban practices. So we kind of so charity practices, social groups practices, looking for kids, dogs, food for dogs, for children, etc., etc. So there's a set of practices, and then self-governance, territorial self-governance, etc., associations. And so these are different things. But the 37 different broken down into several. So there is this our site, granny-org. So you can, I think that you can find a lot of information there. And just later, if you really have some questions, then you can always touch base with me later. And then, for example, some cities, they exchange seeds. So then to sow those seeds along the banks of the rivers, so that later when the trees are fully grown, they will be able to listen to the singing of nightingales. So what comes first, an egg or a hen? So we need to discuss it ourselves, but if they force us to discuss it, how the state is going to take care of the elderly, And so then we need to talk about how to work with the families, and what's the responsibility of the states toward the families, so that later, so when becomes when parents become old, so the family could take care of them, and so when the elderly become hostages of the system, so when they are. So if we don't change, don't make changes in the system of social protection, insurance, other social systems, then we'll just replicate the old practices. So when the state will take care of the elderly people, and so with their free services, and so then certainly no one will take care of the elderly. So I'm against it, because it is the involvement of the society, of the people, that's who need to take care of the old, and not the state. The state can do it only partially. Novgorod. It's a very important issue. So then province. So how to remove province from the people's minds and people's hearts. So deprovincialization. And so then there was a forum that participated in one of the small towns. So there is Russia and there is Moscow. Unfortunately, we're in Russia, not in Moscow. And you were saying that how just to remove this provincial air, and so how to bring small cities and other urban areas to Moscow intellectually, professionally, etc. So, and how to change that. What kind of center we need to have to? Okay, because that's exactly what I was talking about. So this problem has a lot of insights and very difficult to understand. And so that there is Russia and then there is Moscow. So then you stop thinking about it. And in every city we have our own capital. And outside each small town, so there is Russia as well. We need to understand it as a general. So we should not distinguish. Why should we debase ourselves? Why should we humiliate ourselves saying that there is Russia in Moscow? So there is a capital everywhere, in every small town, and there is Russia. And so why I am the only expert from province in the Duma, for example, or the census. I'm the only one in certain commissions, so which deals with the development of cities and urban development, because I'm the only one. But who should be there? So people who live inside Moscow circular ring? So certainly not, because, so for example, so there's a competition of children's paintings. And so then the cost, so just to place a phone call from Moscow to Vladivostok is very expensive, or it's 9 time zones. That is why people just even who want just to present the children's paintings, pictures for a competition, it's impossible because it's too expensive. Because Russia is the country of the regions, and we need to change that. And so the country region, and certainly they are compartmentalized. And so within the framework of education, free education, so we pay for the Hermitage, for the Pushkin Museum. That's right that we defray the expenses. And so then why, within the framework of general education, we would not guarantee that every child within the framework of this program is to make sure that he comes to the Hermitage or comes and visits the Pushkin Museum. So because we're trying just to sew together these pieces, this patchwork of different principalities, of different regions. Certainly we can just move the military headquarters from Moscow to Vladivostok. Yes, I don't know whether it will work well or not, but this is our life. Have you ever encountered a situation whereby people speak in Moscow? So they're experts, they know everything, so they use French words and English words, and then they come to the regions, and then immediately, so they grow a fat tummy, and they start talking differently. And so this ability, this attempt just to put together seamlessly, it's not impossible. So you need just to talk, because I am acting like a person from the capital. So because where I am, that's where the capital is. This is the point. That's how we need to do it. And then people will treat you with respect, because I am the center of the universe. I'm in the region, so I am in a small town, but my town is the capital of Russia. And then it will work. And because inside Moscow there is Russia there, because it's represented by many strata. Krasnodar region, the graduate of 2007. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. And I have a practical question. In your presentation, you failed to mention the interaction with the bureaucrats, so public officials. And being a deputy, so we've done a lot, and as we understand, the main driving force is the community of women. So in each administrative district, so we set up women's communities. But then eventually, so a bureaucrat comes in and he starts to be envious because the citizens are doing something by themselves. And then there is not enough resources. So then the people come to the bureaucrats, say, give us some money. Then he says, I don't have it, or he doesn't want to give it. And so there is no support provided. And that is why we know for sure that maybe you have more experience how to deal with different. So because, for example, so how to deal with those departments? So how to talk to those bureaucrats and public officials? So how to are there any approaches to make them see, to make them hear, to make them cooperate? So I need to visit outside, because we do a lot. So we teach our public officials. So we set up a standard of the authorities of local governance. So procedures, principles. Of the unions or institutions that hold those authorities. So I'm being pragmatic right now. So always just how much to give, how much to take, so how much to be involved. And so we just designed so this instructions manual just for the public officials. And so then we need to use all available resources. And then we need, sometimes in 80% cases, so very difficult, very difficult to explain. So, for example, if you're not happy with the regime, right, and for example, if it's bloody and violent, that everyone agrees to that, but so no one is telling us what to do in order to move from one type of governance to another type of governance. So that would be less violent and more people oriented. So this is it. And so, for example, so we need to describe it in specific procedures, principles. So a certain paper comes in, for example, and you know exactly what to do with it. It's a claim, or if it's an opinion, or if it's a statement, or if it's a letter, class action, whatever. Just when you get, so you need to know the exact procedures. So there should be stencils, matrices along the lines of which, so you will know exactly. The public officials will know how to act within certain period of time. So deadlines. So there are 32 types of activities. Federal Law 131, then the initiative to develop new laws, so Russian initiative. We need to collect signatures in the internet, and so I'm a member of the expert group, the federal level of the Russian public initiative, and so my house is my fortress is the first initiative that we got through the Duma. And then the regulatory influence. So when you work, so you need to find a certain format so which will be appealing to the bureaucrat. And don't start using this instrument, because don't do the expert examination in general, but make a pinpoint impact actions. So you can always find in your instrument box, you can always find a way to influence your authorities if you select the right instrument, because it might become appealing to the bureaucrat. And so then support of other resource centers and the social sphere and the provisioning of social services. So we're involved in that. And we support such resource centers in 17 administrative districts of Russia, constituent units of Russia. And but certainly we cannot force anyone to be active, but we can always support and tell exactly step by step what needs to be done, so that you will be heard and listened to, paid attention to, and that can be done. So the graduates, St. Petersburg, 2012. So it's not that you charge us with optimism, but I really want to keep listening to you. It's very great, because so that's a very, very good, vibrant optimism, because we are just depressed all, but you are not depressed. This is wonderful. This it's only one question, but it has two components. Maybe this position towards the authorities brings about this mutual admiration society. So when they always say yes. So if you start to cooperate with them, so you are being bought, and you cannot say no or just counteract the authorities' opinion. In which way to combat this soft power of the authorities, which is more difficult than application of force on the part of the authorities. And then there is a mutual distrust as well, and as you continue working. So how just to eradicate this mutual distrust, and how to how not to quarrel, because it happens. So because sooner or later, so these public organizations quarrel. So we quarrel and quarrel and quarrel, and then we can't make it up. So how to remove this distrust on the pragmatic? So then distrust is a resource. So from the viewpoint of a pragmatist. So if you quarrel to the extent that then you have to divide your interests. So start doing self-regulatory activities, and then side with those who are working along the same lines as you. So if you quarrel and you cannot make it up, if you quarrel a bit and you can make it up, then. And that's probably possible, because you either stick by the rules or you decide to go against it. So and that's a resource, a hidden pent-up resource. If you disagree, if you don't want to cooperate. And then, so we are looking for new mechanisms. So, for example, so we do weekends, organize social weekends. So 120 people come with different practices, and they see each other, they interact, they talk each other. So, and then they start trusting each other, not because they all want to be vegetarians, but because they saw each other, they met, and so they know each other now. So that's a trust building measure. So we need to talk, we need to meet, we need to discuss, and that's a good resource. But we call it just how to take the tank out from the stable. Yeah, to take the tank out of the stable. So then this connivance issue, when you always agree. So I realize it. I need just to test myself every time. So that I do not want. So do I decide? Did I decide to do that because I want status? I want power. I want authority, or just I want to do it because that's part of my heart. And so what is it that I'm after? So do you want to prove yourself, or you want just to make better life for other people? And that's a deciding issue that you need always to ask yourself. Okay, there's one more question, and I think that so you can always ask more questions during the. So 2005 graduate, so I have a 9-year experience of being in a deep depression. 9 years non-stop depression. And so then the civil society can be built only by civil society, so civil enlightenment is important. So only then you can form the civil society. And these things are trite, so education is important. It's in Dagestan, so there are people who are involved in civil enlightenment, education, and so it's good. So there are many people who want to educate our kids, and we don't know just whether it's good or bad. So there are too many teachers. And not always good. So let's say that we managed to work in the social sphere and social enlightenment sphere, okay? And our practices are in demand, for example. So how in this state, at a later stage, by the way, this is the problem of school, and so people will have to work, make money, feed their families. So how they can continue working, not betraying the values of the civil society. So when they wake up and smell the coffee and stand firmly on the ground, so the realities are harsh and different. And how to stick to those high values. So do you help people? So when we go, for example, into business, in a competitive business, because we still enjoy some freedom there. And or so want to work and influence the association of businessmen in the regions, and then we try to influence the media even, but it doesn't always. There is a great deal of opposition. So they agree that. So the implementation of all the ideas that we got in course of enlightenment, very difficult to implement in everyday life. So many times business incubators, businessmen associations, communities, and so we in Dagestan with our graduates, so we are involved in it. So the Echo Moskva, so for example, broadcasting station. So correct. Yeah, so I was a member of the agency that supported small and medium businesses, and so I did it for many years before I realized that I wanted to be more involved in education. I'm convinced that the independent business is a resource of civil society. This is obvious, and we need to concentrate on that. And that the civil society needs to pay attention to the development of business, because business will save us. Because in the last years, so the state, unfortunately, so build up so business vertically. So it's trying to build business up vertically and responsible, accountable, so that has little freedom. But still, I want it to be horizontal. Yes, I want just to for the businessman to become responsible. So I'm responsible for my family. I'm responsible for my business. I build the businesses. People should understand that they are capable of setting up their own business, feeding their families, feel good about themselves. Because you need to start it at a personal level, a human resource, a brand, etc. So then for the young people, especially the young, so they do not develop free practices, because in every business should be free, and any practices, practical applications of freedom is good. Svetlana Gennadievna, I like to think that I can tell you openly that so we have many people here who are Christians, and they know that despondency is a sin, but we are wallowing in despondency, and this is right, and that you have given this positive charge, this vibrant charge to us. It's a good, fresh wave. Thank you.
И, пожалуйста, терзайте эксперта, пока он здесь.
So you can pounce the expert while she's here.